Oh my god, guys. This book was so good. I want to start off by kind of saying what the back of the book says it's about and what it's actually about. So the back of the book says that it's about a girl who has the ability to see into the future when she is given a choice so that she can see both outcomes before she makes the choice. And she's given a choice, and it's about her searching into the two possible futures to see what will happen. What I feel like this book should say is more than that. It's not just about a girl who has the ability to see into the future when she's presented with a choice. It is about, in the world, in this book, which is a world like our own, except there are people who have mind abilities. And there are many different types of mind abilities, like being able to erase memories, or telekinesis, or what Addie, the girl in this story, can do. And all the people who have these abilities live in secret compounds that are kind of disguised from the outside. So the rest of the world, the people who do not have powers, are not aware of the people who do have powers, and they're not supposed to be aware of it because it can cause lots of huge problems. And her choice is after her parents get divorced, and she is given the choice to either stay with her mom in the compound or move out of the compound into the real world with people who don't have abilities with her dad. And I feel like that is a huge point of the book that I feel like would make more people read it if it was said on the back of the book. Because that's what intrigued me, was not the fact that she had the ability to see the two options. I mean, obviously that did. The fact that it was having to decide between living with the people who have the abilities and living with people who don't, having to keep her ability a secret and everything, that's what really made me want to read the book. And if I hadn't heard about it from somebody else and I just read the back of the book, I wouldn't have known, and maybe I wouldn't have picked it up. Alright, so, 5 stars. I loved this book. If I had time, I probably would have read it in one sitting. I didn't have time though, so I read it in 6 sittings maybe. I read it over 4 days, and I really wanted to read it in less than 4 days because it was so good, and I did not want to put it down, but I had to put it down and do other things because life. But I absolutely loved it. I loved both of the stories. Both of the stories were very intriguing. There's obviously a different guy in both stories, and both of them were wonderful as well. And for most of the story, I was just like, oh my gosh, both of these outcomes are wonderful. Like, which one is she gonna choose? But it's a more than just basically her life in the compound and her life out of the compound with love interest. There's also something going on with a bad guy that I can't really get into without giving too much away, but there is some intense stuff that does happen, and the fact that it goes back and forth between the two scenarios makes it even more intense, because one scenario chapter would end on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but then it would go to a different chapter, obviously. That's the other scenario, and then you'd be like, oh my god, and it was just, it was good. The thing that I didn't understand about the book was the fact that life in the compound is a lot more futuristic. They have a lot more advanced technology, which doesn't make sense to me. Just because they have mind abilities shouldn't mean that they have better stuff than us. Like, all of their video games are virtual reality, and all of their lights are motion censored, and all of their cars and locks and everything are like palm prints and thumb prints and everything like that. The thing that I did enjoy about that, though, was in the scenario where she might be living outside of the compound, she had to adjust to the fact that the technology was lower, and sometimes she would forget and she wouldn't know how to use something, and so that was funny. It was definitely funny, well placed. I just don't understand why, just because they have mind abilities means they have to have awesome technology. It was really good. I actually voxed Amber a bunch of times while I was reading this, because it was just, I mostly just voxed her to tell her that I was enjoying it. I was just like, oh my gosh, Amber, this book is so good. And then I'd be like, oh my gosh, I don't know what she's gonna choose. What is she gonna choose? How is she gonna choose? Something happens though where I knew what she was gonna choose, which I'm glad she did choose what she chose. It was a good decision. But then parts of it were like happy and parts of it were heartbreaking for many different reasons that I obviously can't get into unless you read it. But it was really good, really well done. I cried 2 or 3 times towards the end, and I had like my face all squished and ugly because I was trying not to like make a noise while I was crying. No tears actually came down my face, but it definitely got me emotional. It was just everything about the two stories, where they were, how they went back and forth between each other, the different people, and how the stories went different ways but kind of the same ways at the same time, and just, it was good! It was so good! And then I also did really enjoy the ending. There is a second one. I'm pretty sure it's just 2 books. I don't think there's going to be a third or anything. But this works really, really well as a standalone, which I really enjoyed as well. If you just want to read the one book for some reason, it works well on its own. But I do really want to read the second one. I'm going to wait till it comes out in paperback though, so they match. Amancy though. It has to come out in paperback soon. It's gonna be soon, right? I loved it. I loved this book so much. This was really good. I'm gonna say this was one of my favorites from this year. I haven't actually sat down to think about my favorites from this year, but this is definitely one of them. It was super, super good. It was super enjoyable. I loved the love stories in it, and the suspense, and the way it was all put together, and the ending. I really enjoyed the characters. The main character, I really liked her too, and just the people's abilities and everything. It was all really, really good. It was really good. It was really, really good. So there you have it. Pivot Point by Casey West. I'm going to say is a must read. Read it. Do it. You can thank me later.